dear children. In this video, we will be learning the last part of Act 3, Scene 2. Before we begin the scene, let's have a recap on the scene, Act 3, Scene 2. Act 3, Scene 2, the funeral of Caesar. We see Brutus justifies the assassination and Mark Antony turns the tide. The scene shows the power of verbal persuasion to achieve political power. The citizens demand to know why Caesar was murdered. Brutus calmly explains to the citizens the reasons that made Caesar's death necessary. Brutus tells the crowd that he loved Caesar but loved Rome even more. He slew Caesar because he was ambitious and would have made slaves of all of them. Antony's emotional speech describes Caesar's love for Rome and his sympathy for the Romans. He shows them Caesar's wounds and reads out the content of his will. He so works upon the mob that Brutus and Cassius are forced to ride like madmen out of Rome. Brutus fails to win over the crowd because he appeals to their might. Antony succeeds because he appeals to their heart. Here we see Antony uses reverse psychology to strike the crowd's desire to hear the will by suggesting that they are forcing him. So he positions himself as a reluctant but obedient servant of the people. If you compel me to read the will, then he keeps some condition. Make a ring about the corpse of Caesar and let me show you him that made the will. Form a circle around Caesar's body. And I wanted to show you the man who made this will. Then he asks the question, shall I descend and will you give me leave? The citizens give permission to Antony. Come down, descend, you shall come down now. And after that we see Antony comes down. The fourth citizen says, we'll form a circle around Caesar's body. Yes, stand from the ears, stand from the body, stand from the body, stand back from the body. Second citizen says that give room for Antony, most noble Antony. Antony commands the citizens now, nay, press not so upon me. Stand far off. Don't press up against me. Stand further away. As soon as Antony says this, the citizen says, stand back, give room for Antony, bear back. Here we see Antony's command for the crowd to stand back further demonstrates his control over them. He is dictating not just their actions, but their proximity to him and to Caesar's body. By creating physical distance, Antony emphasizes the importance of the moment, making the crowd feel that they are witnessing something sacred. If you have tears, prepare to shed them now. You all do know this mantle. Antony begins this statement, which serves as a cue, inviting the audience to engage emotionally with what he is about to describe. It also establishes a tone of a deep sorrow and anticipation, drawing the citizens further into the narrative Antony is constructing. If you have tears, be ready to shed them now. You all know this mantle, cloak. I remember the first time ever Caesar put it on. When was he put the mantle on? On summer's evening. Where? In his tent. The day he overcame the Nervii. On the day he defeated the Nervii warriors. By referring Caesar's mantle, Antony uses a tangible object to evoke the memory of Caesar, making the assassination more personal and real for the crowd. The mantle becomes a symbol of Caesar's leadership and intimacy of his relationship with the people. Antony's mention of the mantle also implies that the crowd has a shared history with Caesar, further binding them to the memory of the fallen leader. The first time ever Caesar put it on, it was on a summer's evening in his tent. Here we see Antony recalls a specific moment from Caesar's life, creating a vivid image for the audience. By personalizing the mantle with a story, Antony deepens the connection between Caesar and the crowd. This recollection serves to humanize Caesar, portraying him not just as a leader, but as a man with memories and experiences. What is the reference mentioned in this extract? Suppose this extract comes, this dialogue comes, the reference to the nervy eye. By mentioning Caesar's victory over the nervy eye warriors, Antony reminds the crowd of Caesar's military achievements and his role as a protector of Rome. This reference to Caesar's past glories is meant to evoke pride in the crowd, making the betrayal by the conspirators seem all the more heinous. Just after this, he started showing the hole made by the conspirators in his body. Look, in this place ran Cassius' dagger through. See what a rent, a hole the envious Casca made. Through this, pointing to another place, he says that the well-beloved Brutus is stabbed. Antony shifts from this mantle's symbolic significance to the brutal reality of Caesar's assassination. He vividly describes the physical wounds inflicted by the conspirators, naming each one and emphasizing the violence of their actions. This graphic depiction is designed to stir anger and grief in the crowd, turning their sorrow into an outrage. And he referred the name Brutus the last. Antony says Brutus for the last, heightening the emotional impact by revealing that even Caesar's most trusted friend betrayed him. The mention of Brutus as well-beloved is laced with irony, highlighting the depth of Caesar's trust and his magnitude of Brutus' betrayal. This moment is critical in Antony's manipulation of the crowd, as it casts Brutus not just as a traitor, but as the ultimate betrayer. As he plucked his cursed steel away, mark how the blood of Caesar followed it. How did it follow? To check whether it was by Brutus or not. Rushing out of the doors to be resolved to confirm if Brutus so unkindly knocked or not. Why? Because Brutus was Caesar's angel. Judge, O you gods, how dearly Caesar loved him. This was the most unkindest cut of all. Whose it was? Brutus. The phrase most unkindest to emphasize the depth of Brutus' betrayal. The double superlative, most and unkindest, is a rhetorical device that underscores the severity of Brutus' action. This unkindest cut is not just a physical wound, but a symbolic one, representing the ultimate act of treachery and ingratitude. For when the noble Caesar saw him stab, ingratitude more strong than traitor's arms quite vanquished him. Antony here says that, highlights that it was not the physical wound that killed Caesar, but the emotional betrayal by Brutus. The idea that ingratitude was more powerful than the daggers of the conspirators adds a layer of tragedy to Caesar's death, portraying him as a man broken by the betrayal of those he loved. The phrase suggests that Caesar died of a broken heart, reinforcing the notion that it was Brutus' betrayal, not the physical stabbing, that truly killed Caesar. Antony uses the word mighty, also heightens Caesar's greatness, making his fall all the more tragic. Then his mighty heart, and in his mantle muffling up his face, even at the base of Pompey's statue, which all the while ran blood, great Caesar fell. What a fall was there, my countrymen! Then I and you and all of us fell down. The image of Caesar falling at the base of Pompey's statue is rich with irony and symbolism. Pompey was Caesar's rival, and the fact that Caesar's fall at his statue suggests a tragic reversal of fortune. The blood running from the statue reinforces the sense of violence and loss, making Caesar's fall a moment of profound symbolic significance, as if the statue was bleeding. Antony concludes this section by connecting Caesar's fall to the fall of Rome itself. By saying that all of us fell down, Antony includes himself, the crowd, in the tragedy, creating a sense of collective loss and shared fate. This rhetorical move binds the crowd to Antony's cause, making them feel that they have a personal stake in avenging Caesar's death now. Whilst bloody treason flourished over us, now you weep, and I perceive you feel the dint of pity. These are gracious drops. Kind souls, what weep you, when you but behold a Caesar's vesture wounded? Look you here. He removes the mantle. He here is himself, marred as you see with the traitors. Antony evokes the image of bloody treason as a something that has thrived at the expense of Rome's stability and Caesar's life. This personification of a treason flourished over us. Treason as flourishing is designed to inflame the crowd, casting the conspirators as not just murderers, but as the embodiment of treachery that threatens the entire state. Antony acknowledges he has seen the gracious drops moved to pity. Citizens are moved to pity now. Antony acknowledges the tears of the crowd, further manipulating their emotions by labeling their tears as gracious drops. How did he label their tears? Gracious drops. This is a moment of validation where Antony reassures the crowd that their sorrow is righteous, aligning their emotions with his personal cause, By calling the tears as gracious, Antony implies that their grief is noble and justified, increasing their emotional stakes. Kind souls, what weep you when you but behold a Caesar's vesture wounded? Look you here. Here we see Antony shifts the crowd's focus from Caesar's clothing, the mantle, to his actual body. The mention of Caesar's vesture wounded is a soft prelude to the shocking revelation of Caesar's mutilated body. Antony suggests that if the sight of Caesar's torn clothing moves them to tears, the sight of his actual wounds will provoke an even stronger reaction. Here is himself marred as you see with traitors. The word marred suggests that Caesar's body has been desecrated, means spoiled with a disrespect, not just killed. This visualization is intended to push the crowd from sorrow to anger. By showing Caesar's body, Antony makes the abstract idea of his death tangible and personal, increasing the crowd's emotional investment in seeking revenge. Now we see the reaction of the citizens. I have given explanation of each citizen's reaction here that you can read. O piteous spectacle, O noble Caesar, O woeful day, traitors, villains, bloody sight, we will be revenged. All together they say, revenge about, seek, burn, fire, kill, slay. Let not a traitor live. This collective cry for revenge, the last one all together, all the citizens. The collective cry for revenge is the climax of Antony's speech. The repetition of violent verbs, revenge, seek, burn, fire, kill, slay, mirrors this. These verbs mirror the frenzied mindset of the crowd, which has been incited to riot. Antony's rhetoric has successfully united the citizens in a single purpose to avenge Caesar's death by eliminating the conspirators. When all together they said revenge, seek, burn, Antony stopped the citizens. Stay, countrymen. Antony's command to stay serves a dual purpose. What is the purpose behind Antony? To stay the crowd, to control the mob there. On the surface, it appears that he is trying to calm the crowd, but it also reinforces his control over them. Antony's ability to provoke and then momentarily restrain the crowd demonstrates his mastery of rhetoric and manipulation. The citizens were stopped by Antony. They listened to Antony. We will hear him, follow him, and die with him. Let us listen to Antony. Antony continued. Good friends, let me not stir you up to such a sudden flood of mutiny. He pretends to discourage the crowd from mutiny, which is really irony, because his entire speech is designed to do exactly that. The term sudden flood of mutiny suggests a powerful and overwhelming force, which is he knows the crowd is on the verge of becoming outrageous. He continued that they have done this deed are really honorable. He acknowledges their honor in a way that makes the crowd question it. Are they really honorable? Using repetition to sow the seeds of doubt without directly attacking the conspirators. What private griefs they have, alas, I know not, that made them do it. Through these lines, Antony feigns, pretends, ignorance of the conspirators' motives, further distancing himself from the crime while suggesting that their reasons were petty or selfish or what personal or private griefs they have had. This subtle suggestion allows the crowd to fill in the gaps with their own doubts or suspicions. What made them kill? What made them assassinate Caesar? Left it to the citizens. They are wise and honorable, the conspirators, and will no doubt with reasons answer you. I come not, friends, to steal away your hearts, because I am no orator, as Brutus is, but as you know me all, a plain, blunt man, that love my friend, and that they know full well, that gave me public leave to speak of him. For I have neither wit, nor words, nor worth, action, nor utterance, nor the power of speech to stir men's blood. Antony downplays his own rhetorical skills, presenting himself as a simple, honest man. This false humility makes him appear more trustworthy and relatable to the crowd. By contrasting himself with Brutus, who he describes as an orator, Brutus, Antony implies that Brutus' words were crafted and manipulative, while his own are sincere and from the heart. He continues, I only speak right on, I tell you, which you yourself do know, show you, sweet Caesar's owns, poor dumb mouths. As you all know, I am just as a plain blunt man who loved his friend. And those who have given me permission to speak know this very well. I don't have the cleverness, vocabulary, reputation, body language, eloquence to stir men to passion. I just say what I really think. I tell you what you already know. I show you, beloved, sweet Caesar's owns, those poor, speechless mouths, and ask them to speak for me. Antony, we see that through these words, this is a master stroke of reverse psychology. Nor words, nor word action, nor utterance. This is a master stroke of reverse psychology. Antony claims to lack the very qualities that he has. In fact, demonstrating through his speech. His denial of rhetorical skill is an ironic statement, as he is effectively using those same skills to manipulate the crowd. Then he positions himself at the end while showing the wounds, positions himself as merely voicing the thoughts and feelings already present in the minds of the plebeians, the citizens. This makes his speech seem less like an incitement and more like a confirmation of what the crowd already believes. It also flatters the crowd, suggesting that they are wise enough to see the truth on their own. Showing Caesar's wounds, Antony personifies Caesar's wounds as a dumb mouths that cannot speak for themselves, which creates a powerful image of Caesar's body crying out for justice. This metaphor is designed to evoke pity and anger in the crowd, further pushing them towards a desire for revenge. And bid them speak for me. But were I Brutus, and Brutus Antony, there were an Antony would ruffle up your spirits, and put a tongue in every wound of Caesar that should move the stones of Rome to rise and mutiny. Here we see Antony imagines a reversal of roles, suggesting that if he were Brutus, he would use his oratory to incite the crowd even more effectively. Here we see this statement is also irony, because Antony is doing exactly what he claims Brutus would do in his place, inciting the crowd to rebellion. By saying this, Antony subtly criticizes Brutus' lack of emotional connection with the people, while demonstrating his own superior ability to influence them. Put a tongue in every wound of Caesar. Antony speaks of metaphorically giving a voice to Caesar's wounds, allowing them to speak on his behalf. This imagery is powerful and visceral, as it evokes the idea that Caesar's very injuries are crying out for justice. Antony implies that if he were Brutus, he would stir up the crowd even more forcefully, but the truth is that he is already doing so. Antony uses the metaphor of stones of Rome to suggest that even the inanimate objects of the city would rise up against the conspirators if they could. This hyperbole reinforces the idea that the people of Rome, who are much more than stones, should be even more inclined to revolt. His words are a direct call to action, disguised as a hypothetical statement, and the crowd immediately responds. How did the crowd respond? We will mutiny, we will burn the house of Brutus. Away then, come seek the conspirators. Yet hear me, countrymen, yet hear me speak. Here we see once again Antony pretends to restrain the crowd. I have given the explanation of each citizen's response. Once again, here we see Antony pretends to restrain the crowd, calling them back to listen to him. This tactic makes him appear reasonable and in control, even as he has just incited them to mutiny. By asking them to listen, he maintains his position as their leader and continues to direct their actions. Peace, oh, Antony. Most noble Antony wanted to speak something. Antony continues. Why, friends, you go to do, you know what, not what, wherein hath Caesar thus deserved your loves. Antony plays the role of a concerned leader here, questioning the crowd's intention. You don't know. Do you know what you're going to do? He feels surprise and concern for their actions. He's just pretending, which only serves to keep the crowd's intention on him and ensures that they remain under his influence. You go to do you know not what. This line is another example of Antony's use of irony, as he knows exactly what the crowd is about to do. Having incited them to do, he knows very well. Still he feigns, he pretends. By bringing it up again, he refocuses their attention on Caesar's generosity and love for people, which contrasts with the betrayal by the conspirators. The mention of the will, he has taken the reference, he has used the word, the will. I must tell you then, you have forgot the will I told you of. The mention of the will acts as a rhetorical device to keep the crowd engaged and ensure that their anchor remains directed at the conspirators. Most true, the will. Let's stay and hear the will. Let's listen to the will, the content of the will. And the mentioning of the will, the mention of the will, which serves as the final piece of evidence that Antony uses to solidify their resolve against the conspirators. Here is the will, and under Caesar's seal. What was the content of the will? To every Roman citizen he gives, to every several man, 75 drachmas. By announcing that Caesar has left money to every Roman citizen, Antony appeals directly to the self-interest of the citizens. This bequest serves as a concrete evidence of Caesar's love for the people, contrasting sharply with the actions of the conspirators who deprived them of such a generous ruler. The crowd's reaction shows how effective this tactic is. How did they react? Most noble Caesar, we will revenge his death. O royal Caesar. The crowd now sees Caesar as a martyr and symbol of goodness, further vilifying, defaming the conspirators. The word royal elevates Caesar to almost divine status, making the act of killing him even more heinous in their eyes. Once again, Antony takes their attention. Hear me with patience. Yes, peace, peace, oh, all of you, silent. Moreover, he hath left you all his works. This content to be learnt by heart as it is was the content of Caesar's will. This is one keyword, 75 drachmas. Further in this dialogue it is there. He hath left you all his works, his private arbors, new planted orchards on the side Tiber. He hath left them you and to your heirs forever. Common pleasures to walk abroad, recreate yourselves. Here was a Caesar when comes such another. This bequest is particularly significant because it speaks to Caesar's desire to enrich the lives of all the Romans, not just through monetary gifts, but also providing spaces for leisure and enjoyment. This further solidifies Caesar's image as a benevolent leader. Antony rhetorically as at the end, when comes such another, as when Rome will see another leader like Caesar, knowing that the answer in the minds of the plebeians, the citizens, never they will see such kind of leader. This statement is designed to make the crowd feel the magnitude of their loss, further inflaming their desire for revenge. We see the citizens' reaction. Never, never, come away. Never. The repetition of the word never emphasizes their belief that Caesar was irreplaceable and that his death is an unbearable loss and that must be avenged. We will burn his body in the holy place and with the brands fire the traitor's house, take up the body. The plebeians, the citizens, decided to burn Caesar's body in a sacred place, turning his funeral into an act of defiance against the conspirators. They planned to use the flames from Caesar's funeral pyre, to set fire to the houses of the conspirators, symbolically using Caesar's death as a weapon against those who betrayed him. This decision marks the point where the crowd transforms into a mob ready to take violent action. The citizens physically take hold of Caesar's body, signifying that they are now fully in control of the situation and ready to carry out their plans for revenge. Now let it work. Mischief, thou art afoot. Take thou what course thou wilt. Antony's words suggest that he is willing to let events unfold naturally without attempting to control or stop them. The personification of mischief, let it work, mischief, indicates that Antony sees the chaos he has created as an independent force that will now take its own course. This moment highlights Antony's cunning and his strategic mindset. He is fully aware of the havoc he has unleashed and is content to let it play out. Enter a servant. How now, fellow servant informs that Octavius Caesar is already come to Rome. Where is he? He and Lepidus are at Caesar's house. The servant informs Antony that Octavius is with Aemilius Lepidus, another key figure in the emerging power struggle. This alliance between Octavius and Lepidus suggests that the forces are beginning to coalesce around Caesar's legacy, potentially setting the stage for the formation of the second triumvirate. Antony thither will I stray to visit him. He comes upon a wish. Fortune is merry, and in this mood will give us anything. Antony's response to the news of Octavius' arrival reveals his opportunistic nature. He immediately decides to visit Octavius, seeking the potential for a powerful alliance. Antony views the current situation as one of the greatest opportunities where fortune favors those who act decisively. His optimism reflects his confidence in his ability to manipulate events to his advantage. I heard him say Brutus and Cassius are rid like madmen through the gates of Rome. Said by servant, for that Antony responds, belike they had some notice of people, how I had moved them bring me to Octavius. Their hasty departure, Brutus and Cassius, their hasty departure indicates that they are aware of their reaction to Caesar's death and Antony's manipulation of the crowd. Knowingly, they escaped. They rid like madmen through the gates of Rome. This was the information given by the servant to Antony. Antony says that by seeking out Octavius, Antony is positioning himself as a key player in the new power structure that will emerge in the aftermath of Caesar's assassination. This decision marks the beginning of Antony's next phase of action, where he will likely to seek to consolidate power and avenge Caesar's death by aligning himself with Octavius. Thank you, children.